Hey y'all! Well, we're here to do another video on some Aperion audio stuff. Besides those V8B speakers they sent me a pair of these little super tweeters to demo, listen to, and give my subjective opinion on. And the deal with these, they have 4 different versions. Starting with a planar magnetic, these are aluminum ribbons. They have an AMT tweeter, then they have a larger version of the AMT tweeter. And they go for basically, I think, 400, 600, 900, or close to 1,000, and then 1,500. You can look on their website, links below. What these things are supposed to be is an adjustable addition to your speaker array. I guess, especially with a home theater like 5.1 setup, when you have, 5 speakers plus subs and all that stuff, these are supposed to be an addition to that sort of a system to fine-tune the high-end sparkle kind of response that your speaker system has. My use and test case was using them in a stereo setup with some speakers that I was curious if adding a little ribbon tweeter goodness to the top end would elevate them to the status of my favorite speakers so far, which are these Quad S2s. Like I've said before, these Fine Audio F500s are a really great sounding speaker. The Quad S2s have just a little more kind of transparency, at the same time detail on the top end that these were missing from my listening preference. So, what are these things? They're adjustable ribbon tweeters that you can go from 5 dB to 0 dB as far as how hot they are at 1 dB increments, and then they have a 8K, 10K, 12K, 14, and 16K crossover switch on them. So you can dial in where these things come in. And if you need just a little bit on the super top and you've got ears that can hear that stuff, you can turn them all the way up to the top. I liked them about 10K, set on about -4 dBs when I was pairing them with these F500s. And they did add a little top-end goodness that I wasn't hearing with just the speaker itself. This is a coax design that has the tweeter in the center of the main midwoofer. And one of the things that is kind of problematic, especially if you're doing not near field like 3 feet away, but I'm about 10 to 12 feet from the speaker when I'm listening, that the distance between the driver and the tweeter does become important. And the time phasing of the distance, in this direction from the tweeter to the woofer also comes into play. More so than like in a really big room. And so the question became, does adding a little sprinkling of top end to this speaker bring it to the same sonic signature that the Quad S2s have? And for me, it didn't. It was an improvement, and I didn't hear anything that was like off-putting with adding this. If anything, like I said, it added just a little breath on the top end of some air that was, to me, missing in these speakers after listening to the Quad S2s. But then when I listened to this combo with or against the S2s, the S2s still had more kind of a transparent, realistic sound than adding this to those. And probably some of it was overlapping of the same frequencies with the tweeter in the center with this tweeter. And it didn't sound like it was overly bright. It just wasn't the same as having a speaker that natively has this kind of sound to it. And I'm finding that I really do like the way these ribbon tweeter speakers sound. And some people don't. You know, a lot of this is personal preference, and that's kind of what I'm doing here, is making sure that I'm being clear that this is just my kind of personal subjective opinion. So what I could see these being really good for is if you've got, you know, a dedicated home theater space in your house, which I'm not affluent enough to have something like that in my house, but I know some people are really into having this home theater thing, you know, to experience with their family, and everybody enjoys it. And you've already got, like, you know, 5 speakers, and you've got 2 subs, and you get your big amp and everything, and you feel like that, man, if it just had a little sprinkle on the top end, it would really bring some life to the room. This might be a good solution. Especially as adjustable as these things are, you could really fine-tune it into your system to, and I would say system because at that point you've got multiple speakers, and you'd have to be replacing, you know, at least your 2 main speakers that you may have a big investment in to try to get that little bit, and then even then it's not adjustable. And so this would be a great product to try in those situations. So back to the finishes, beautiful built little cabinets. The wood grain's really cool looking. I like on these what's, you know, it's got this kind of orangish kind of wood tone around the whole speaker. The tweeter's just inset in there. That said, for the use case for these, you're probably not going to want to highlight that these are sitting there. And so I think they do make these in a matte black finish as well as gloss black and white. So if I don't know if you've got white speakers, I would think most home theaters probably have black speakers. And so anyway, just those are your options on the surface finish. This super, I mean, it's like automotive clear finish is, I don't think it's like a delicate finish, but it's also going to show every fingerprint. And honestly, it's probably easily, I'm not easily scratched, but it's going to be easier to scratch, and the scratches would be noticeable, you know, or swirl marks or whatever, than it would be if it was a matte finish. So, you know, for a speaker, while it looks really pretty, I'm not sure I would personally want this super glossy finish where every time I touch the speaker, I got to go find some, you know, super clean dust-free rag or lint-free rag to polish them back up with, and then I'd be worried about putting swirl marks in the clear and just. But they do look really pretty. And this isn't going to be a real long video. I think I've kind of said what these things are, what my experience is for my personal system. I don't feel like these are something that I would spend this money on. I would be on the hunt for a native speaker that had the sound that I wanted. But especially if you've got, like I said, some sort of a home theater setup, or you've got maybe a larger room that it's hard to get the right treble response in, just because it's a kind of a dead room, or it's got a lot of sound absorbing kind of materials and stuff in, or maybe there's a spot in the room where the speakers that you have a fairly directional kind of high frequency, and that there's seats in the room, or like at home theater, some seats in your home theater that don't really get the tweeter response that other people sitting in the room here, that these could be added to kind of fill in those dead zones kind of a thing. You know, for me personally, I listen just by myself so I can set the room up where it sounds good to me, and the other chairs in the room don't matter because there's nobody sitting in them. So that's something to consider too. Buying a product like this is that it could work really well to fill in like dead zones in the room where people are going to be sitting to have this shared listening experience, and it's not the same because the speakers are directional, which is something we talked about with this Fine Audio F500 over the S2s. The S2s are a more directional speaker, and so not everybody or not every chair in the room is going to have the same listening experience. And if that's important to you, then a speaker like this is going to win over an S2 just because more people are going to get the same shared experience. I hope that makes sense. So anyway, hope you're enjoying my channel. If you are, please subscribe. Please like the video. Thanks to Aperion for, I hope I'm saying that right, for sending me this stuff to demo. I was trying to knock these out pretty quick, and I've got a whole list of stuff I need to be demoing. And these seem like a pretty easy thing to do a listening test and do a quick video on, so I can get these sent back so somebody else can review these. And got all kinds of other cool things that I'm working on right now. Going to be revisiting the MusiShare X7. Got a cool new tape deck I'm going to show y'all soon. So yeah, lots of fun content. Do have another pair of speakers coming soon, and we will do that video probably in the next week or so. So yeah, trying to mix it up in the content. Hope you're enjoying it. And until the next video, have a nice day.